Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining us. Welcome to our webinar on turning challenges to opportunities. We really appreciate you taking the time. We know it's a very, very busy time of year, and it's Christmas is upon us. It's coming up very quickly. We've all, in various ways, been challenged by things over the last few months and few weeks, particularly, and we've been thinking of those particularly that have been challenged by the floods and everything that's been happening in northern Victoria and everywhere around Victoria and New South Wales. Really, it's been pretty incredible, and we've been keeping everyone in mind. Obviously, our offices up in Shepparton and Cobram and around the place have been directly impacted. Obviously, and a lot of our clients as well. So hope you're all doing well. Our content today is put together by Tam and myself. And it's also coming to us courtesy from Mindshop, who's an organisation that we do some work with as well. So thanks to Mindshop for the content. I'd probably like to start off, if I can, just by introducing ourselves. For those of you who don't know Tam and I think quite a few of you who are joining us today probably either know us or have been along to these webinars. So welcome back to those people. But for those of you that don't know us, my name's Joe Seckel. I'm based in our Melbourne office. And I work with clients from the top of Victoria down to the bottom and a bit outside of Victoria as well, on creating dreams worth fighting for in their businesses in the advisory space. And Tam, if you want to give a bit of a
hey guys.
yourself.
Welcome today. I'm Tam and I'm based in our Cobram office. And I, work with lots of different varying clients on the accounting side and on the business advisory side as well.
Right, so you're right in the thick of a lot of water, Tam.
Yeah, it's been pretty hectic here lately. Anyone that lives along the Murray, or even Shepparton based, has had just a lot of flood issues at the moment. So it's been very challenging and some people have been really heavily impacted, which has been really sad.
Absolutely. So please reach out, touch base with us about with your contact about any of the grants that are out there. Obviously, happy to help with any of that and anything at all we can do to assist. Please reach out and let us know. More than happy to help. So today we're going to run through, I suppose, some ways that we can turn some challenges into opportunities in our businesses, and there's some common things I think we're all experiencing. We'll run through that shortly, but just before we get into that, just some housekeeping. You'll notice in your top right-hand corner, hopefully of your browser, you can see there's a little chat box or a little question box that you can click on and open up. Please feel free to put your questions in there. Comments, there's going to be parts of this presentation where we're going to ask for some comments. So please put some comments in there as well. Interact as much as you can. We want to make this as helpful as we possibly can. If you lose your connection for whatever reason, just refresh. Hopefully it should just pop straight back into the session. If it doesn't, click on the link again and you'll find that you should get back in pretty quickly. It's pretty smooth. You will receive an email after the conclusion of the session with a copy of the session recording. Anyone that's registered for the session will get that, but you guys who have come along will get a separate email with a couple of different extra things on that as our thanks to you actually making the time and coming along for the day. Amy's prepared a bit of a handout as well that will be sent out, which will summarise a lot of what we're talking about. And there's a couple of other handouts we'll provide along the way as well.
Absolutely. All right. So when we, I suppose, talk about, just before we talk about the agenda, I think it's extremely challenging to run a business at the moment. There's an increase in inflation, there's skills or staff shortages, there's supply chain issues. So all on the back of COVID means that we're really in a very challenging and volatile market. So as a business owner today, as a business owner in general, you've got two different choices to make. You can be reactive to these challenges and you can just wait and see what happens, or you can try and be proactive and really lean into those challenges and create opportunities in your business. So that's what we're focusing on today. We're going to focus on what you can do going forward into 2023. We're really at that, last little bit end of the year where we've really got to start kind of looking to see what 2023 is going to bring. We're going to talk about, the fact that as a business owner, we never have enough hours, and one of our, I suppose, pillars for each of our webinars going forward will be us trying to give you some time management tips. Apologies, I've been really unwell lately, so I've got a terrible cough and my voice isn't the same as normal. We're going to discuss the common challenges that everyone's having. We'll go into our 5 strategies to turn challenges into opportunities. Then we'll do a bit of a summary, talk about our growth hub going forward, and then answer any questions at the end. As Joe said before, we are wanting to make this quite an interactive workshop. So there'll be a few polls throughout the session, and we'll be getting you to kind of write some things down as well. So try and participate as much as you can.
Excellent. Thanks, Tam. So our first poll, and this is the first time we've run a poll on this webinar software, so bear with us, but I'm sure it'll go all to plan. So I suppose what we'd like you to do is just reflect on your business at the moment and answer the question. You'll see this in the right-hand corner. Again, it should come up with a poll there on the right, and you should be able to select an answer there. So what are you really going to focus on? This is your question. What are you really going to focus on in your business in 2023? If you've had a chance to have a think about it. If not, what's the first thing that comes to mind? So feel free to answer in the poll. To see a few people answering there. Thanks very much. And if it's another, if it's another, and it's not one of those answers, please feel free to put a note in the chat as to what it is, or if you want to expand on what you're answering there, please feel free to do that as well. Happy to take comments. Excellent.
Absolutely. I think a starting point for that is, I suppose, what's working well, what's not working well, and then what are you going to focus on going forward? So looks like we've got a 50-50 split, which is really great, between building capability in your team and growth of turnover or profit. So I think that doesn't surprise me. I don't know whether it surprises you at all, Joe.
And I think, obviously there's a couple of different ways to build capability in your team. You can either expand on your team, or you can train them, or you can, there's many different ways you can do that. It doesn't surprise me that there's no one sitting in that consolidating status quo sort of space, because I think we all know there's going to be a little bit of uncertainty ahead, and probably not the time to try and consolidate necessarily, or focus on that. A little concerning, we've got no answers for making time for yourself, but we might just touch on that a little bit more as we move through this. But that growth of turnover or profit, I think that's always a focus of business owners. But the fact that we've got a few answers there that's not surprising at all. So thanks for that. Thanks, guys. And that all went to plan, so that's good. The poll worked. All right. Not enough hours in the day. So this is I'm sure we've all sat in this chair. Hello, you're speaking with the secretary, salesman, and CEO, and probably admin officer, receptionist, whatever else your titles you want to insert there. What can I do for you? And obviously that's a play on the fact that when you're in a small business, particularly when you're in it for yourself and only yourself, you have to perform any number of different roles that perhaps a bigger business or a corporate would have people to assist them with. That comes with its own challenges, of course, but one of the biggest ones for small business owners is time. So never have enough hours in the day. Never have enough hours in the day. I've got friends that are not in business that never have enough hours in the day. I think it's pretty common across the board. We're all pretty busy people.
Absolutely. So what we would like to do is we want you to write down or pop it in the chat box if you can, if you're happy to share it with everyone. But what would you do if you were given an extra 5 hours in your business every week? So I want you to physically write down what you would do. What's the first thing that comes to mind? And what would you do differently to what you were doing now? Now, the reason for this is we're going to go through some ways to kind of, I suppose, give you some hours in your week, but really want you to actually write down now what you would do differently than what you're doing now, or what extra could you do in that 5 hours if you were just gifted it. Don't think about how you're going to get there, just what would you do with it.
We'll give you a couple of minutes to do that, so we might we'll give you a couple of minutes. We'll give you a warning in about a minute or so, and go into as much detail as you like. As Tam said, put it in the chat box if you're happy to share it. Just while you're doing that, I suppose some reflecting things that we see when we ask the question we quite often ask clients, and it's very interesting as to what pops to people's heads straight away when you ask them that question versus when they reflect on it and start writing some things down. Quite often, a response I would get, I'm not sure about you, would be the same thing I do with the other 45, 50 hours a week. I just to do that, do more of the.
Just keep doing stuff. Yeah. And look, and that's really common as well. I suppose some people kind of go, well, I want to look at the strategic side of my business, and I want to maybe look at some of the data that I've been collecting that I just don't have time in the day-to-day of everything else. So some people, want to have a look at that. Some people, when you say, I'm going to give you an extra 5 hours per week, they're like, oh, awesome, I can go have a massage, or I can spend some more time with the kids. But we're more talking about what you're going to do in your business. Beautiful. All right, so we might move on. We've
got Sophia. Thank you so much for putting an answer and being brave.
Yeah, thanks, Sophia.
That's excellent. So Sophia's just said focus on innovation and strategy, and I think that's awesome, Sophia. I think that's something we're going to talk about, the Eisenhower matrix shortly. And that's something that's absolutely fits into an area that we're going to talk about because it's one of those things that putting innovation first and strategy first for a little bit of the time can make a really massive difference to your business going forward.
Yeah, absolutely. And thanks, Sarah. Sarah's just popped one in as well. Staff incentive program and rewards. That's really good. I think when we talk about these different hats that we have in business, we've got the red hat, which means that you're the worker. The blue hat is the manager. Oh, sorry, blue hat's the worker, red hat's the manager, and then the black hat is your strategic business owner hat. And quite often, we're not wearing that black hat in when we're looking at business because we're so busy in our business, not working on our business. So I think both of those answers are really great.
Yeah, we're this guy most of the time, aren't we? That's what happens. Yeah.
All the time. The time as business owners, we're that guy.
And that's the reality of it, because we don't have heaps of people at our disposal to ask to do things for us a lot of the time. It's that's not unusual to sit in that chair. In fact, it's just a common thing. So it's really about trying to understand some techniques to overcome and create a little bit of time. So thanks, Sophia, and thanks, Sarah, for sharing those couple of things. That's fantastic. Really appreciate it. We went through this at our last webinar for those of you that attended, and it's something we talk about a lot. If you work with us, you've definitely encountered this. It's called the Eisenhower decision matrix. Not often called that. It's often known from the book 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. It's well covered in that book, and it's really the urgent and important quadrants, the 4 quadrants. So you can see there the urgent and important quadrant 1. That's the crisis stuff. Like, we've got to deal with this now. There's a fire somewhere. We've got to put it out right now. Quadrant 2 is the important but not urgent things. And this is exactly what we were talking about before with Sophia and with Sarah's answers around staff incentive program and rewards. It is important, and innovation as well, and strategy. It is important. We know it's important. We know we should spend some time on it, but it's not urgent. We don't have to do it right now. The building's not going to burn down if we don't do it. It's got long-term impacts. So it's hard to motivate yourself to do that. Quadrant 3 is urgent but not important. So this is things like emails coming in, spam emails, perhaps. Obviously, some emails are important, but some spam emails or more emails than you'd like. Things that are interrupting you all the time. So they're not important, but they keep popping up and they keep taking your attention away. Quadrant 4 is not important, not urgent. That's the one you really don't want to be spending a lot of time in. It's things that are not getting you anywhere, but take up a lot of time. So what we find is we spend most of our time, if we look at the right-hand side here, most of the time we spend in quad 1 and quad 3. So we focus on urgent, important, and urgent, not important things. that we've constantly got stuff coming at us, and that's why we've in that position. Tam spoke about reactive and proactive before. That's all about. So the question we need to understand or answer, the two questions are, how much time do we need to spend in quad 2? Because we're not talking about taking half your week and putting it in quad 2. That's not sustainable, and it's not something that you want to do either. How time do we need to spend in quad 2? And that's different depending on the life stage of your business. And then how do we create the time to do it? It'd be great if, using Tam's example before, if someone could just find half a day for us and give it to us. That'd be fantastic. But how do we create the time and the I suppose motivation to spend time in quad 2? Because it's very, very easy to get sucked back into quadrant 1 and quadrant 3.
Absolutely.
So it starts with awareness. To know how to save time, we need to know where we spend it. And the example we use all the time on this, because it's pretty common, is setting a household budget. So if I asked you how much last month you spent on groceries or fuel, would you know the answer to that question? If I asked you how much you spent last month on eating out, would you know the answer to that question? The difference between those two and why we, I suppose, differentiate between the lines is groceries and fuel are things we generally have to have. We can't get away with not having any groceries or not doing not having fuel in our cars. We've got to get around. Now, the prices, as we know, over the last few months or 12 months or so have increased astronomically of both of those things. But there's not a lot we can necessarily do to control that. There's some things we can try and cut out, but there's, they're things we need to live on. Eating out, that's a little bit more, I suppose, discretionary. We can choose to do those sort of things. They're more leisure activities. We need a little bit of fun and that sort of stuff in our lives, but it's discretionary and we can move them up and down depending on what we can afford to do. I suppose the point I'd make there is that I'd suggest most people would have a bit of an idea of what they're spending on groceries and fuel. They'd have very little idea if you ask them, and I try this out because I do it all the time, on what they spend on leisure activities, because we just don't pay that much attention to that. And that's okay. But the point here is dollars can disappear from the bank account as quickly as they come in, and minutes, hours, and days are absolutely no different. So they can disappear just as quickly if we let them. So one of the key things we talk about with our clients straight off the top when we start working with clients in advisory is time inventory, keeping track of time. Now, as accountants and lawyers and other industries, it becomes second nature to us because that's part of our job. But for most industries, it's really not. If you keep going back to that example before, if you keep track of those costs for a couple of months, you'd be a lot closer to knowing when, why, and how you're spending whatever limited resource you have. Now, in that previous one, that was where you're spending your money on groceries or fuel or whatever you're spending it on, whether that be money or time, but time's no different. So Amy's going to put in the downloads area again over on the right-hand side. That should have just popped up there now. It's an Excel spreadsheet, and this is the same one we use with our clients. It's pretty straightforward. It's nothing too magical, but the magic is all in the data that comes out of it. So what we'd encourage you to do is have a look at that, track your time for 2 weeks yourself as a business owner, and have your team do the same if you've got a team that where that's applicable, and it's applicable to most people, even though they might be doing the same tasks all the time. The order of when they're doing them, how often they're doing them, all those sort of things. There's a lot of information that can come out of that. Now, just like asking someone to do a household budget without knowing where they're spending their money and having a guess, it's trying to set a time budget is just as ineffective if you're guessing. So what we suggest people do is just do the 2 weeks, get the data, and then you can start to get some insights from that and make a bit of a plan as to where you possibly should be spending your time from there. That's the next step from there. So please take that, use it, and feel free to come back to us with any thoughts and insights that you get from it. Happy to discuss that.
Absolutely. So some common challenges. I think the good thing is just before we move on to the challenges is that, as Joe said before, without tracking this type of stuff, we can't make changes. So at the moment, business owners are so busy in the day-to-day, and it's just like you're on a hamster wheel and it just keeps going. Where does the day go? Where does the hours go? We don't necessarily have the data to know where it is going. So it is really important for you to, I suppose, if we're trying to build time and find time in our week, look at those tasks that you are doing, look at the tasks that you probably shouldn't be doing or that you might be able to delegate, and that's how you start to free up some time. So as Joe said, give it a go, download it, try it out for 2 weeks. We say 2 weeks because a week, like 2 weeks, you get like that little bit of consistency. There can be, something big happen in 1 week that you just have to drop everything and deal with it. And those sorts of things happen in business. But over a 2 week period, you start to get a little bit more regular data that you might be, you might have staff interrupting you, five times a day, and you're like, well, that's where my time's going, or, something like that. And we can help you. Once you gather the data, we can actually help with some initiatives to put in place to, I suppose, help with that. All right. So some of the challenges that business owners are encountering at the moment is overheads increasing, customers testing pricing, staff availability and retention. Staffing is a huge issue all around the market at the moment. Shortages in products and materials, supplier price increases, costs of funds or interest expense increasing because the interest rates are going up. So all of the above challenges impact our cash flow, and they impact our capacity to be able to run our business. And these are things that are just driving up at the moment. So cash flow is going to get tighter and tighter and tighter if we don't address some of these. And they also drain, as a business owner, they drain you with anxiety and worry and what's coming next. And the unknown is really hard there. So we've got another poll. What's your number one challenge in your business at the moment? So we want you to head over to the right-hand side to the poll section. I'm going to pop up another poll there, Ames. There we go. Got another poll up there now. Just to kind of, try and gauge the room as to what the biggest challenges are at the moment. So I'll give you some time to start answering those. Put another in. They're going to
let us know in the chat. It'd be good. Thanks, Michelle.
Absolutely. Finding staff with the right skills is very hard. Beautiful. So we've got a bit of a better spread of answers at the moment. So the common one is staffing, which doesn't surprise me at all. Staffing is huge for literally nearly every business owner that I speak to is having issues finding staff, retaining staff, finding the right skills for particular jobs. It's just a little bit of a nightmare. For anyone, it doesn't matter if you're regional or in the city, it's everywhere. Other, which is interesting. We've got a few. So workspace availability, finding staff with the right skills, competing with government or staff. Then the other ones are difficulty obtaining finance and supplier and cost of business increasing. So thank you everyone who participated in the poll. That's great. Gives us a good cross section.
I think you're right though, Tam. As far as the staff side of things, that's absolutely any business owner we're talking to at the moment finding challenges with staff, whether it be finding people at all or whether it be finding people with the right skills, as Michelle said there. Sarah's mentioned competing with the government for staff. They pay over the odds, so the cost you're having to pay in order to actually access some of these people is higher than what it was previously, and that has ongoing concerns around, okay, what happens when it turns around the other way? That there's challenge for paying over the odds now. What happens, down the track? And workspace availability, Glenn, thanks for that one. It's again, depending on the type of industry you're in, there can be a lot of workspaces available. Like I know a lot of clients I work with down here that were traditionally in a city space. There's a heap of workspace availability there, let me tell you. But as far as some of the more industrial or factory ones or regionally as well, a lot of people have gone regional now. So there's the people that were in the city maybe aren't. Some of them are at home, but some of them have moved to regional areas as well. So, that has an impact and a flow on as well.
Absolutely. All right, Joe, I'll let you
Okay,
kick
so
off
we're going
the
to run
first
through our
one,
five
cutting costs.
things. And this is the Mind Shop content that we've, I suppose added to and put our own spin on and thoughts on. So thanks again to Mind Shop to Chris for putting that out. So cut costs, what does this mean? Pretty straightforward. Reduce unnecessary spending. So what should we're going to attack each of these the same way in the same format. So what shouldn't you cut? Things that add value to your business. Expenses that improve efficiency and expenses that improve customer satisfaction. So it's something that we spend a bit of time on with clients as far as their overheads goes. It's, again, once you get it to a point where you've made it as efficient as possible, it's worth reviewing regularly, but you don't want to be cutting the wrong things. And that's a message we're sending here, is that things that create better efficiency in your business, connectivity with your customers, engagement, all those sort of things. Marketing as well. Obviously, we know what happens if we cut off our potentially marketing expenses and branding. You lose touch with the market. Potentially, you don't get new people in the door if that's important to your business. The recurring work can sort of slow down. So we don't just want to be doing it across the board cut. We just want to be having a good look and seeing which things can we cut without actually necessarily impacting too much on what we're doing. What should we look at?
Yeah, that's right, Joe. And I was just going to say, I think when we looked at these, the blanket statements, which are, like the 5 strategies, if you just saw that cut costs, you're just going to go straight to the profit and loss, go to your expenses and just start cutting things. So what we really wanted to hone in on is what you shouldn't be doing and what you should be doing when I suppose tackling these things.
So what should we look at? And that's inventory product lines that are not selling, essentially, or not moving for us, and that are not making us money. And that should be looked at all the time, but particularly at the moment, we just cannot be carrying dead stock at this stage. Commodities, phone, power. So commodities, anything that's price-based, price competition-based, not value-based, or not really adding anything, particularly to your business from a provider. Just have a look at those. Again, be mindful if you've got ongoing relationships and long-term relationships with some of these companies. Don't just cut them, but that's an area to start. And the other one is, are customers costing you money? So that's one that not many people look at. And it's a tough thing to look at the moment, because we really want to maximize our customers, but there will be some that are costing you money as opposed to making you money. So just don't remove that from the equation.
Absolutely. I think it's something to really spend some time on looking at, are there certain customers that are always expect a discount, or that you've got on certain pricing, or that always present their job in a really messy way, so that you're actually not making money on it. And they're the customers that you should be, looking to cut, or looking to, change the arrangement going forward. So then it's at least more profitable, because there's no point spending time doing the same work and you're losing money. It's like an opportunity cost. You could spend the time on that customer, making on a more profitable customer that's going to make you money, as opposed to losing money on this particular.
And by the
customer.
way, that doesn't mean go and cut the customer, just blatant say, no, I'm not working with you anymore. It means go and have a discussion with them and try and work through that, because it's, if they're reasonable people and you've got a good relationship with them, they'll want to maintain that, and they'll understand that if you're not making money ongoing and it's a continual issue, that it's not going to work long term anyway. So be honest, just go and have that difficult conversation, and try and rectify that. And there shouldn't be many of them hopefully there's not that many of them in your business.
Beautiful. Increased pricing. So what does this mean? It really means trying to maintain profit margins. So what do we not want you to do? Increase the price without, consideration or awareness of the market. So where are your competitors? Where are your where are other people or other products in the industry. We don't want you to just go and put $20 or whatever on the price of something. That's not what we're saying to do. We're saying that we need to look at different things. Assume that you can't increase your prices. So a lot of people at the moment are having to increase prices because inflation's going up. The cost of everything's going up. So don't just assume that you can't increase prices, because you obviously can't run your business if you're going to be making a loss. And if you are going to increase your prices, don't not communicate with your customers, because that can kind of lead to customers being quite unhappy and things like that. What we do want you to do is some market research, know where the ballpark is and where your business fits. So look at your competitors, look at other people in different towns or different areas. What are they charging? What are they offering for that service? Or if you're a retail business, like what are they retailing the same type of product at? Consider the impact of rising supplier costs. If you don't increase your prices, then that's going to eat away at your bottom line. 100%. If you don't pass that on to the customer, you're wearing that yourself. Consider if it's a good time to increase, because as I said before, a lot of other people are at the moment. So we do think that it's probably a good time for you to be increasing prices at the moment, because everyone knows that everything's going up. So customers are very much more open to price increases at the moment. And just consider, again, another left field thing that we like to try and educate people on is the cost of customers changing from you to a different supplier. There's going to be reluctance for them to change, because you may know their business, or you may know, or you may stock their product that they want. They're going to be reluctant to go and source that from somewhere else, because it does actually mean it's a kind of a cost to them to change. So that's
there's a lot of
something
unknowns
to, I suppose,
there,
consider.
Tam. That's the thing. I've had a good long-term relationship with
Yeah,
someone. And look, it might come down to something as simple as they like you and they like dealing with you. It may not be any of those things. It might just be that they appreciate what you've done, and if people are happy and they're generally content in a business arrangement, they will be less likely to move. If they feel like their price, there's generally a couple of things that have got to be going wrong in that relationship for that to change. So I suppose all these things, and with any of these things, the immediate reaction may well be, I can't do that. As you said up the top there, you assume you can't increase prices. I can't cut that, or I can't do this. Just take the time to sit with that and question it, I suppose, is what we encourage you to do, because just keep in mind that there are plenty of businesses doing a lot of these things here, and they're quite often very successful at what they do. So there's nothing wrong with imitating success if it works in your business. But it's quite often just having the ability to work through those concerns and then be able to make a decision that sets businesses apart.
Absolutely. Now, I wanted to just go through a quick example from one of my business advisory clients who's a builder. And they came to me and they were wondering why they felt like they were just treading water. Money was coming in, money was going out, and they just had no idea why they just weren't getting anywhere. So we looked at some of the financial levers in their business, and his biggest one was his charge rate for the time. So he's a builder. So the amount of hours that he spends on a job, he charges that out. Now, he was charging out at $55 per hour plus GST. Now, when we broke down his cost per hour and we looked at what the employees are paid, their super, work cover, long service leave, and what the overheads were for the business, we found out that it was costing him $57 per hour in a cost. And he was only charging $55. So that's why he felt like he was treading water. He was actually kind of going nearly backwards. Now, the building industry is a really highly competitive industry. So we did some industry research, and we went to the top of the market, which was $65 an hour. Now he's feeling a lot less pressure, and he's got an extra $100,000 on his bottom line for the year. Now, that's because he's got 6 staff that work about 8 to 10 hours a day. And he's, that increase in just $10 has made a massive difference to his bottom line per year. So just wanted you to really kind of sit with that, example that we really need to, I suppose, when we're looking at increasing prices, maybe come and see one of us in the business advisory area to kind of make sure that you're educated and know what your costs are behind there.
Excellent. Thanks, Tam. Okay, so number 3 is cash flow. What does this mean? This well-used saying, cash is king. What not to, it's particularly true at the moment. What not to do. Don't ignore your debtors. Take your finger off the pulse. So assume that because you're busy and you're invoicing things that the cash is just going to appear in your bank. It doesn't happen. So what to do? Timing of invoices. So review your timing of your invoices. And that is do them as soon as you possibly can, ASAP. Look at things like pre-billing. Can you interim bill as well? Can you do bills partway through a job? Or at the start of a job for deposits to help with the cash flow, particularly in larger businesses with larger, longer-term projects with long expense tails that mean that you're carrying a lot of those expense on the way through the project. So a good example, like your builder Tam. There's a lot of expenses they're carrying on the way through that. So review payment terms, customers and suppliers. So that's both sides. So, the longer you can hold on to cash, the better. The quicker you can collect cash, the better, obviously. And be aware of your working capital requirements. That's really just a way of saying, no, just understand how much cash your business needs in order to grow or to maintain its current size. And that is able to be worked out so that, for people that struggle with cash flow, and businesses that struggle with cash flow, it's quite often a case that they're just not aware of what their business actually needs in order to have a buffer to be able to operate. And that's why they constantly find themselves short of cash. So I suppose a couple of examples on this one from my clients would be, again, a similar sort of story to Tam's, where a guy who'd been in business for a little while came to us, and we started to do some work around why he, again, use the same term, but he felt like he was treading water. He had a lot of work going on. He had some money coming in, but he felt like for the amount of work I'm doing and what I'm charging and my pricing and all that sort of stuff, I really should have more money in the bank and I should be doing a lot better. And then when we worked out how regularly he was doing his invoices and also what level of invoices he had out not being collected and not being followed up on, it became pretty clear where his cash was. And yes, all the other things lined up. His pricing was pretty good. The way he was doing the work with the customers were all very happy. That was all fine. He just wasn't sending them an invoice. And unless you send someone an invoice, they're probably not going to pay you. That's the reality of it. It'd be really nice if people just volunteered their money, but they don't. And they won't even more so right at the moment. So really it just came down to, okay, how do we create an environment or a space for him? Because it's not just as simple as, because as soon as we pointed it out, he knew he wasn't doing the invoices. Obviously, he just hated doing invoices. So it came down, okay, how do we create that in your business with either you doing it or you doing it with someone's assistance or someone else doing it for you? How do we do that so that this gets done? Because it can't just keep getting ignored. Then the other one, with that as well is probably more like an engineering type business with long lead times, and their concern was, I'm not going to win these projects if I put in large deposit amounts, and it's a regional based business. So the other thing too is that they quite often know a lot of the people they're working with in the town. It's a small town. It's so they're a bit nervous about chasing money up that they were owed, because there's that whole wanting to have that community connection and help people, which is absolutely understandable. We 100% support that for sure. But it was probably going a bit to people were starting to take advantage of this business. And it really just came down to putting a few fair rules in place and sticking to those rules to enable the business to be able to collect some of that cash and feel like it was going to run with with ample cash in it to be able to grow and do what it needed to do and deliver those projects on time. Because the other thing with this stuff is if you don't have the cash, you can't buy things, and then you can't pay your bills, and it's got flow-on effects. So a lot of the stuff that we're talking about there is it's not a lack of necessarily awareness from the clients. I understand perhaps where the challenge is. It's really helping them through, and this is part of our job, helping them through changing their mindset around some of those things, because that's the thing that's holding them back a lot of the time. So once we get a handle of what this looks like, it's really talking about, okay, well, how can we change how we're looking at that so we get a different result? So cash flow and cash, big thing at the moment. Be aware of it.
Absolutely. Oh, sorry, we both pressed the button at the same time, Joe. So increasing engagement. So what does this mean? It means communicate more. So what not to do, and this is communicating more with your employees, with your customers and your suppliers. So all three of them. And what not to do is assuming that they're all engaged with you at the moment. What we want you to do is communicate more than I suppose more than what you are now, if you feel that you don't have a lot of engagement. Now, I suppose engagement means that they, I suppose, are communicating back with you, that they are really engaged in what you're trying to deliver and, on board with, I suppose, how you're running your business and that type of thing. We want you to seek feedback. So what do customers want to see? What does staff want to see? Where does staff want to go? What does staff think the positives or negatives are within your business? So you want to be really seeking feedback from these types of, different groups in your business, as well as suppliers. Like, I suppose seeking feedback as to, or having the conversation with with suppliers about what you could do to maybe get better discounts, what you could do to, get quicker delivery or something like that. So communication and trying to talk to these groups is really, really important at the moment. And it's probably, one of the important
I think
things.
the other thing with this, Tam, is that the rule of thumb I use myself, I suppose, is if I feel like I'm communicating enough to people, I probably need to double it. And that's because what's getting through to people and what I think I'm putting across is not necessarily what's being heard. And that's not quality of, I'm not talking about quantity of what the communication is. So I'm not going to send them twice the amount of emails or twice the amount of phone calls, but it might be twice the quality or twice the quality of the question I've got to ask. So thinking about that a bit more, it might be twice the quantity as well, because sometimes we just put an email out or make a phone call and we think that's good enough. And quite often that needs 2 or 3 times in order to really get through to people. And in order for them to start, as you say, to respond back or acknowledge it. And that's the key part to it. You don't just be sending noise out there.
Absolutely. And I think, increasing particularly employee engagement helps retain those staff, and that works exactly the same with customers. If you increase the engagement with customers, then you're going to be able to develop better relationships with them. And then it doesn't matter if you increase your prices or you can't deliver up because of, shortages of materials or something like that. You have got the goodwill bank in terms of the good relationship with them to enable all of, you to work through all of those little challenges.
For sure. So number 5 is focusing on the long-term vision. So it's very easy to be focusing on tomorrow at the moment. Again, particularly coming into Christmas, we sort of all have this thing. I don't know about everyone else, but for me, the world seems to end at Christmas as it starts again. The 5th of January or something next year. Like, it's just, the run into it just seems to get busier and busier every year. And in reality, that's not how the world works, of course, but it's very easy to focus on that short term and what's happening next week, what's happening next month, and getting caught in that. So what does it mean? I suppose these challenges we're talking about with staff, with inflationary things being in place and prices going up, all that sort of stuff, it's not going to go away next month. it's going to be around for a little while in some form or another. There's going to be challenges. There's always challenges in business. We know that, particularly at the moment. So what not to do? Focus only on short-term gains. So this again comes back to, okay, well, if I snip a few things here and snip a few things there, I'll win in the next month or so, but what does that do for me long-term? Not take any action at all. So that's, we just ignore it, basically, with, the old ostrich, stick your head in the sand strategy. And focus too much on a 3 years plus. So we spoke about before focusing an appropriate amount in quad 2. That doesn't mean half your week. It means a little bit of time, depending on the life stage of your business and what you're trying to achieve.
Yeah. And the reason, I suppose, for not focusing on any much more than 3 years at the moment, going to that 5 year, 10 year, it's also unknown. So, really just trying to hone in on, you don't want to just focus on the next couple of months or the next 12 months. You really want to be considering that next 3 years.
All moves through pretty quickly. 3 years is not long.
No, it doesn't.
No, that's right. Exactly. I was going to say, I remember last Christmas pretty clearly. So what to do? We set time aside to strategize. So an appropriate rhythm, facilitated strategy or structured discussions, and knowing what to say no to. So the facilitated strategy and structured discussions bit is really someone else coming in outside that's got a different perspective that can help manage that conversation, maybe drag out some of the more important things and push some of the other stuff off to the side to discuss a bit later on, and keep that on track. And knowing what to say no to, it's very easy. We get a million things chucked at us every day. It's very easy to say yes to things, and increasingly difficult to say no to things. But those that say no to the right things or no to the wrong things for their business are the ones that they grab back a bit of that time that we were talking about before.
Absolutely. All right, beautiful. So we've obviously spoken today about completing a bit of a time inventory for yourself and your team to kind of have a look at where you might be able to create some space in your week to focus on some of these strategic things. Be aware of the challenges to your business, but also what opportunities can some of those challenges bring to you. So again, focusing on those what to do's and what not to do's that we've just discussed. Focus on implementing only one or maximum 2 strategies to take advantage of those opportunities. The reason for that is that we don't, there's always probably 20 things that we need to do as business owners. You just want to be focusing on 1 or 2, nail them, get them right, move on to the next 2. You just feel so overwhelmed if you try and implement all of these things. So really kind of just pick out maybe those 1 or 2 things that you might really be able to see working in your business to start off with. And then you can, come back to the slides and have a bit of a look at the next ones after you've implemented
just a quick one
those.
there, just before we move on to the next one. That talk about one of the models that we used with Mindshop is called a force field, and that's what that refers to. We're happy to take you through and share a bit more information about that. But really, what that is all about is working out how you can really maximize, double the benefit of something, and halve the downside. So, picking a particular thing, how do we double the opportunity, halve the challenge? And if you can do that, whatever that thing is will hopefully be on the positive side of the scale for your business. So that's that whole thing.
If you're struggling, and if you're struggling with something, yell out or reach out to Joe or myself, and we're more than happy to kind of do a bit of a force field with you on one of these things. Say it's cash flow, and we can have a look at those positive forces, the negative forces, and help you kind of create some actions coming out of that. Create a regular rhythm to review and complete, and I suppose have a look at these opportunities. And quarterly is a really good starting point. So have a look, once a quarter at the start of the quarter, or when you get your BAS done, have a look at what's happened in the last quarter. What can you, and just spend some of that strategic planning time. What could you have changed? What would you do going forward? What are the problems? What are we going to, what are we going to fix? get some thoughts from your team. Now, staff, quite often we don't ask our staff enough as to what they may think we could do in certain circumstances. They may have a different perspective and really some valuable insights that you might be able to implement. So I suppose we can't stress enough that we really want you to try and, look at this holistically in your business, involve your staff, see what they think you should do for different things going forward, because they may just have a different insight to you. And create an accountability loop for yourself and your team. So the reason for doing that is so that you actually make these changes going forward, because as I said before, there can be 20 things that are on your to-do list at any one point in time, and if you don't have someone that's going to make you accountable, or you don't have someone who's going to make your team accountable, then quite often they just don't get done.
All right. Our last poll.
All
last
right,
one, third one.
Poll.
They've all gone well.
Yeah.
Thanks, Amy. So of those 5 opportunities from those challenges that we've just been through, which of those 5 opportunities are you going to focus on after this webinar? If you could pick an answer there, which one of the 5 is going to be the most used for you in your business?
Cool.
Answer that, and we'll.
I don't know about everyone else on the webinar, but we are having some absolutely crazy wind here today. And it's just blown over my outdoor setting. If you just heard that big bang, that's what that was. I was like, what is that?
Just thinking so before we were going through something, I was thinking if the internet is highly likely to drop out here because it's the same thing. I don't know if people can see the trees out my window. They're okay now, but they were sideways before. Yeah.
I did actually notice that.
Okay, beautiful. Great. We've got a few answers there.
Awesome.
Excellent. We've got. Okay, so yeah.
So number one answer, I suppose, is focusing on the medium to long-term vision. So that's great. That's more of that strategic planning and things like that. Then people after that, the next popular was cash flow. And then cutting costs or increasing engagement were the other 2 ones as well. So that's great. Thank you so much for participating in these polls, guys. It just helps us, I suppose, get some insights from you guys to help us plan for future webinars and things. For
sure,
like
and I think look, probably not surprising. Again, don't forget the increasing prices thing. It's not surprising that no one selected that because that's a difficult one. But don't discount that, and particularly at the moment. Again, cost of living pressures, things that depending on your business and what you're doing, there is a real pressure in that space. But just be mindful that your overheads and your direct inputs into your business are increasing as well. So it is something that's always under attack. So there's not too many other things you can do to close that gap or to keep it where it is with your margins, other than to increase your prices. So just be mindful. And again, it's one of those things that requires a bit of thinking about and a fair bit of working through in order to change the mindset around that. It's quite often that's a mindset one, more often than not.
Yeah.
Well,
absolutely.
That's okay.
Oh, sorry, Joe.
No worries. So what now? So we're gonna, I suppose, put the knowledge that we've had on top of the other knowledge that we've I suppose put out there from our blogs, our social media marketing, our videos that we put out there. We put a lot of content out, put a lot of stuff out to try and help as much as we can. So I suppose what we wanted to try and convey here, and it's going to link in with our growth hub, which is the next thing we're going to have a quick chat about before we do some questions and finish up on the hour, is what can we do now as business owners? And your choices are far wider than these 3, but for illustration purposes, we're going to use these 3 choices. So we do nothing, we just keep doing what we're doing. It's the first option. And continue along business as usual. Change will happen when it happens. And that's perfectly fine. Your business is traveling along okay, and you're what's going on, remain there. Just keep doing what you're doing. And likely there's no change and no impact, but that might be perfectly fine for where you're at right at the moment. The second thing is we use information to implement yourselves. So we've given you some info, we've given you some tools. We'll keep providing you those tools. Please feel free to go and use those. And if you put those into place in your business and you use them, you'll definitely get some uplift. So to take some of what you're learning and apply it to your business yourself, you're going to get some change there for sure. Okay. The third one is commit to accountability. One of the pointers we had in the summary was create an accountability loop amongst yourselves or with someone external. Obviously, we provide that service to clients, and it's something we're going to provide in a bit more accessible way with the Growth Hub. I think Tam's just dropped out there. So commit to accountability. So we're going to commit to ongoing accountability and ongoing attention in a supportive environment. And that's going to provide the maximum change because you're having, again, there's many studies out there. I'm not going to go quoting them, but there's many studies out there that talk about the ability of people to engage and to bring change on themselves and to have that motivation level to continue to do that, particularly with working with that group of other people in a team versus having someone to I suppose, hold themselves accountable to talk through the challenges and be coached to the end outcome. So that's going to create the maximum change for you. We do that in a range of different ways. Obviously, we do it through ongoing accountability individually with clients. But what we want to talk about here is our Growth Hub, which we're commencing in 2023. And it's basically a system that allows clients and business owners to jump into a session that's group based, that is focused on a particular topic. It's a half day, so it's 3 hours. We focus on setting goals, accountability, sharing of knowledge and experience. So it's with other business owners, and it'll be with a group from top to bottom of Victoria. So it's not going to be just a group of people from a particular section. You're back, Tam.
I'm sorry, guys. I lost your connection.
One of us was going to do it. I'll probably do it before we finish. Focus on setting goals, accountability, sharing of knowledge and experience. And we're going to then connect we spoke about here. We connect our knowledge, the time that we create from hopefully the time inventory and the next steps that we'll run through in our next webinars, and the accountability, and that'll get us the results that we're looking for. And it's a good introduction into the more, I suppose, I won't use the word intensive, but it's the one-to-one advisory is certainly a lot more intensive than the group stuff. It's more regular, but again, if it's suitable for your business, it fits really well, obviously. So we have 3 minutes left of our session. Amy's going to upload our summary notes if she hasn't already. She may have already done that. No, she's doing it now. So please feel free to grab that. As we said, we'll get the copy of the webinar out to you guys not long after this. But if you'd like to, if you have any questions or any comments or anything that you want to run through, please feel free to put them in the chat now, and we'll answer as many of those as we can with a couple of minutes that we've got left. Tam, did you have anything further while we're waiting to see if there's any questions that come through?
No, I'm pretty good, Joe. Thanks everyone for making the time to come along today and participate. I think this is the first I suppose interactive webinar that we've tried to have with the polls and the questions and things like that. So definitely really appreciate everyone's involvement today. It's been great. Excellent.
Amy's just put a little thing up there which should have popped up on your screen for leaving us a review on Google. If you'd like to do that, we'd really appreciate that. Feel free to do that. One of the benefits that we're going to, I suppose, provide to yourselves for actually attending the session and coming along and making that time and effort is you'll get a different email and a little bit different content of the email following on from this. We'll provide you with the time inventory stuff if you haven't managed to download that, so don't worry about that. It'll be there. It will provide you with Tam and I our details directly, so you will have our actual direct emails and phone numbers to contact us as well. So please feel free to utilise those, and you will also be the priority as far as the list of people to enter into our growth hub. Our growth hub is only going to have 10 spots for the first one. So you'll be the priority top of the pops selections if you would like to do that. There'll be some information in the follow-up email if you're interested in coming along to that, and we'll provide more information as that gets closer as well.
Absolutely. I love Karen's comment. We're all quiet because we're all thinking so much. I love that. Thank you for everyone that's, thanked us for a great session. We try and make these as informative as possible, but also try and give you a different spin on things, because there's a lot of this information out in the marketplace. You could probably Google, how do I, improve my business? And you might come up with, those 5 or even more. But we try to make them relevant and I suppose, give you tips on how you can actually implement them into your business. So, just give it a go. As Joe said, reach out if we've got anything, if you've got anything that you need a hand.
Excellent. Thanks, guys. Thank you very much for coming along. We're bang on the hour. So we'll let you go and get on with your day. Have a fantastic Christmas and New Year break if we don't talk to you beforehand. And we'll see you in 2023. And thank you. Sorry, Tam. We should also thank Amy, who's been running this in the background and also did the presentation. Thanks to you, Tam, as well, for the work we've done on this. It's great.
No, excellent. Sounds good. Thanks, guys. Thanks so much for coming along.
See ya.